in me and you. All these years of inspiration and love. Oh, how we live and what we say. It's Stampin' Up and it's our way.
Hello again. Card for the Cutest Crew Craft at Home kit class. So in your kit you have your stamp set and your dies, and we're going to need the little paw print from the dies. Little tip, it cuts out both sides, so don't think that you can actually get away with just having paw prints, which is a shame kind of, because I really wish they hadn't actually made those two separate. But you're going to need that die. You're going to need the full row of the dogs to cut out. In your supplies you will have your crumb cake base card, a piece of pecan pie, which is a layer. You'll have a piece of early espresso, and you'll have a piece of basic white. And you'll also have a scrap piece of basic white from your sheet that you already have, your A4 sheet in your kit. Just take a piece of scrap. That is for our sentiment to go on to. All right, you're going to stamp on a piece of scrap the row of dogs. We're going to colour those in. So let's go through the rest of the supplies you're going to need. I'm just going to put that over there. Going to need an embossing folder, any one that you have. Now, for the new ladies that have joined and you're receiving these videos in an email, be aware that I wasn't sure whether you did have an embossing folder or not, so I have actually embossed your piece of pecan pie cardstock. So that's one thing you won't need to worry about. Just like I said, I wasn't 100% sure if you owned an embossing folder. So the next thing you're going to need is some adhesive sheeting, and again, those new people who have joined, you will receive in your kit a piece of adhesive sheeting. So you've got a bit there. I'm going to actually take out a little piece now for myself. I keep that in the DVD storage cases that we used to sell. I just find them easier to do. You're going to need your adhesive. You're going to need dimensionals. You're going to also need your Memento ink pad, and that of course is to stamp your sentiment and to stamp your row of dogs. You're also going to need a range of markers. I'm using the not Stampin' Right markers. I'm using the blends. Be aware that the blends will bleed through, so make sure you have a drop sheet on your desk to colour those in case they run through. What else do we need? I do believe that is everything we need to do. So probably first thing is let's get started on some colouring in. And now you've got a couple of different options with colouring in with the Stampin', I keep saying Stampin' Right markers, oh my goodness, with the blends. And you can do a couple of different things with the blends. And depends on whether you want shading, light and dark and things like that too. There's a light blend and there's a dark blend. And you of course can make them whichever way. I tend to go light first, then dark. I'm just using the Lost Lagoon not to colour in my dogs, but I'm using that to colour in just my accessories on the animals. So light lolly I'm using just to do that. And I'm going to show you on one of the dogs how to get a two-tone dog. So you can use different colors, you can use the same color, like the same tones. So let's go this little dog here, I'm going to go light crumb cake. So I'm going to go all over my dog with light crumb cake. So just a general all over colour first, all right? So there's a couple of different ways you can use the blends, and it just depends on what look you're going for or what you would like to do. Now you can leave him that one colour. You could come in with the darker colour of the dark crumb cake, I'm actually going to come in with the light pecan pie, and I'm just going to highlight a little bit of him. So I'm just putting some colour down. Now I'm going to take my light crumb cake and I'm going over the top of where I went with the pecan pie. And I'm blending that out. And when you give that a little bit of time to dry, what will happen is that little doggy is going to change colour. So he's now got a little bit of shading, a little bit of pattern to him as well. So there's lots of things that you can do with your animals. So, or any of your colouring in. So this one here, I'm going to make my little schnauzer. I don't know why I picked this colour, but anyway, we're going with this. He's probably better as a grey, but I'm going to go with him. He's all good. Let's make him a different colour. It's like the horse of a different colour in The Wizard of Oz. Ha ha ha, ho ho ho. Sorry. You'll get used to my nutty sense of humour, I'm sure. All right, so I've added some of this is the skin tone ones that we've got. And I'm going to take some Cajun Craze and I'm going to add a little bit of Cajun Craze just in sections over him. Just dabbing, popping down colour, and then come back in and just blend that out. Just gives him a little extra. Now, if you didn't want to use a different colour, of course you could come in and make that using the same colours. So you could go ahead and use the skin tone colours with the skin tone colour, or the Cajun Craze with the Cajun Craze, or yeah, so there's lots of colour combinations that you can mix and match and do things with. So give him a little medal like that, and then I'm going to give you some just need one more colour for my other dog. We'll go with a pecan. So this little doggy can be all pecan. Sometimes if you don't go right to the edge is a good thing with a blend, because you'll find the colour sometimes actually will bleed out to the edge line. And the other thing with a blend, if you hold it down, that tip will actually bleed out as well. So if you're just after a circle or a dot in a flower to do that, you can. I'm just going to go and grab a green because I have forgotten to get a green blend for my little leaves. So be back in a sec. All right, I still didn't grab a green. Hang on. All right, so I've got my light shamrock and I'm just adding a little bit of colour to the leaves. And then when I was saying about the adding a dot, if I just put a dot in the center and hold that down, it actually bleeds out on there, and you'll get this larger center in the flower. So what I'm going to do now is I'll show you with the light sage. It should be my nib end, yep. So with the blends, you'll see that there's two lines. One is a fat and one is a thin. So that indicates it is the nib end or the brush end. For this detail and this smaller design, I do tend to go for a nib. Just gives me a little bit more control, and like I said, you don't need to go right to the ends because it does tend to bleed out a little. So you can sort of come back in and touch that up if you feel like you need to, but just something to be aware of. And this little guy's got his tongue sticking out, so I'm going to give him a little bit of a tongue. Just a little bit of colour just on his tongue there. And then for his, what have I got? I've got a little scarf on him now. So I'll go some crumb cake for his scarf. There we go. And now that I'm going to come back in with the dark smoky slate on him and just highlighting a few little sections of him around, and then come back in with the light smoky slate and just touch that edge line, and you'll see that it sort of grabs hold of each other and attract, and then you've made, and then you can just pop some extra little colour down. So that is all the colouring in for this one to do, and we're going to use our dies to cut that out. All right, let's go through what we're going to do. So grab hold of your pecan pie, pop that into an embossing folder, and it gets run through the machine. Take your piece of early espresso cardstock, and you're going to need your self-adhesive sheets. You peel it off. This side is not tacky, this side is, and cardstock doesn't matter on this what you've got there. So I'm going to lay that down. What you want to do is turn that over and pop your paw prints down onto the cardstock. Little tip here is, because I want it centered for the card, I'm going to make sure my 3 little dots here and my 3 little dots there are still on cardstock. So remember, this whole thing is going to completely cut out. So what you want to do is, I don't know if you can see that, is a row of paw prints. You need 2 of those. So 2 little paw prints, and it's really helpful having that adhesive sheeting on the back, because all those little things are going to pop out in a minute. So give that a go. So we're cutting and embossing that. Oh my goodness. And then hold on to that, and then we're going to stamp our sentiment as well. Okay, so when you pop it out, you will have, so it'll probably stick in there. Just give your die a little bit of a tap. And of course, we're going to need our take a pick tool or the brush to pop out all of those bits. So just grab your brush, give that a whack, and that'll get out all of those bits out of there. All right, so next thing we're going to do, I need to cut this out. All right, we're back. Okay, so what you're going to do, so we can start assembling this card all together now. Leave my sentiment. I'm going to need this piece of white. All right, first thing we need to do is adhere our piece of pecan pie to our base card. So we'll do that first. Always keep my Tombow glue laying down, because it keeps the glue on the edge. It's quicker and faster. If you keep standing it up all the time, it does tend to take a little longer sometimes, especially when the tube is getting a little low. Next thing, what we're going to do is adhere this white piece in the center, and we're going to attach the paw prints to this up the top, and the other one's going down the bottom. Okay, so we can do that. So just peel away the back side of the adhesive sheeting, and then if you find any of the little paws, the little footprints have not quite come out, sometimes the adhesive sheeting will actually take them, but it hasn't taken all of them. So I'm just going to pick off my other ones. So I'm going to get an idea where I want that to go, and then I'm going to glue my paw prints down. Then I can adhere my basic white to here, like so. Then take my other sheet of paw prints. See how sometimes they actually will come away with the adhesive sheeting, so it does make it a little easier. I'm just going to rotate that and then pop down my row of paw prints. Got tiny little love hearts now stuck to everything because they've stuck. And what I'm going to do now is take some dimensionals and I'm going to pop those down behind my little puppies. And that one will need, I'm just going to put a mini. Where's my minis? So I'm just going to grab two little mini dimensionals and pop those on the ends. And that goes down. All right, push those into the bin. And down go our little puppies. And then we need to stamp our words, and I'm going to have the best day. A little tip with the photopolymers to make sure that you get them straight. If you just lay them on the table or your bench and position it, they tend not to warp. Of course, with photopolymers, it is kind of nice that they do change, and you can tweak them. So I have in the past twisted them around, just give them a slight curve sometimes, or you want them to go around in an arch shape, so you can manipulate some of your things like that. Okay, what we're going to do is actually trim this and banner it. So just grab hold of my personal trimmer and just trim that down. Yep, that looks good. And going to just trim that end and make a banner. So one up the center and then bring in the two from the side. So one up the center and then from either angle. All right. And then what we're going to do is add dimensionals here to this. If you want, you could also layer this if you felt like the white on the white, so another color. Stamping on colored cardstock is also a great option. So we'll just pop some dimensionals here. If you felt that your card needed that breakup of white on white, you could even just add a slither of brown, just some early espresso. So I wanted just a bit of early espresso on here. The other thing I have done with cards is put them down on a layer and cut around it to give it that little trim, but I'm not going to do that today. So we're going to just get off. He wasn't stuck down quite well. All right, and then on that goes like so, and that is our card. And then we would be able to also stamp on the inside. We could stamp a little dog in there as well, or we can actually do some paw prints. So if you grab hold of your stamps, and we're going to just take our little paw prints and our memento ink, and just in the corner there, add a couple of paw prints there just to finish off that card. So he is really super cute. Look at that. And then you've got somewhere to write. You could also put your happy birthday in here. Could be a thank you card. Lots of options there as well. So that is our next card, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
What we love, what we do makes a difference in me and you. All these years of inspiration